Wow, that lamp looks like my magnifying lamp looks like a Space Invader or something. Wow, that's weird. Okay. Hello and welcome back. We're here, build number 2. This is the A-10 Warthog by Revell. The should have a copyright date on it. It says copyright 2021, so this is a new kit. Nice box art. There we go. Let's see. Get this. Get into the box. Let's see what all we got here. Canopy right on top, and some other little clear things. Not sure what those are. Here we've got wings, looks like elevators, tail, half the body. That's a good size airplane there. That's gonna be fun. And there's the other half, basically the twin. Oh, there's the engine cowling. Very cool. And yeah, I'm not sure. I guess those could be light covers, maybe. Oh, we're gonna have to put the canopy glue to. I got some new canopy glue. Formula 560. Picked it up at a hobby shop in Nashville. Out on a thrifting day. There we go. Lots of little bits and pieces. Looks like our fuel tanks, missiles, the hard points or the mounting points for the missiles, some cockpit. It's kind of cool. Not a huge amount of detail there though. Well, I don't know, maybe. And bombs, more bombs, fuel tanks. Looks like landing gear. Hey, there's the pilot. See the little guy? Yeah, cool. And the instructions. Oh, here we are. Water slides. My current nemesis water slide decals. These are hugely small. Oh, I'm a little disappointed it doesn't have the face, the gnarling teeth. Okay, cockpit. All right, very cool. And A-10 Warthog. So this looks familiar from the Volkswagen. There's the paint chart. I'll make a copy of that and work out the paint colors. Let's see, how many parts does this thing have? 102 parts. And starts in the cockpit. Very cool. All right. There's where the decals go. Pylons, that's what those were called, the mounting points, pylons. All right. Paint colors. Gray, light gray, white, silver, yellow. Okay. Yeah. Very cool. So let's get organizing. Here we go. That will get broken off. Guarantee it before I get this thing done. First thing we're going to do is the cockpit. So this one may take a few minutes. So I almost immediately started to run into trouble with this thing. The directions didn't give a clear indication of how the pieces were supposed to fit together, and in my newbie model mind, I didn't account for the seat being a separate entity. I thought it was just piece it together one at a time, but it needed to be assembled and then installed. With my big fat fingers, I needed a little help holding the parts in place, so I took a little tacky putty, I think that's what it's called, and used that to help line up the parts and hold them in place while I glued them. Again, I'm still working on my video technique, and I still tend to get lost in the moment and forget that there's a camera going, even though it's right in front of my face. I've got an idea to hopefully resolve that, and we'll see if that works out in future videos. This would be my second attempt at lining this up, and it's still wrong. So I went back to the instructions and just stared at them for a few minutes, and just couldn't figure out how I was so far off base on this thing. If I glued the seat back in, I wouldn't be able to line up the rest of the structure. It wasn't until I stopped and went back and looked at some actual photos of an A-10 cockpit that I realized what I was doing wrong. It wasn't just the seat I was building, it was an ejection seat. So there was a lot of other stuff going on there that I had not accounted for. Once I saw a real-life ejection seat inside an A-10 cockpit, everything made sense, and then it all went together the right way. Here's a tech tip, or for you if you want to call it. When you're working on anything, the reference material is, especially if you're recreating something in miniature or scale or whatever, reference material is crucial. You need to know what the real thing looks like in order to make sure that the model is being made correctly. Don't just trust the instructions. I'm going to give this Revell model kit a demerit on at least the cockpit instructions. They could have been a little more helpful as to how the pieces went together. There were a dozen pieces of ordnance and missiles and other gear that hangs off the bottom of the airplane that I worked on while I was letting glue dry on the cockpit. So there's another little tip for you. If you know you're working on a process that requires a pause in order to let, I don't know, glue dry, paint dry, whatever it is. Line up something so you know you have something to work on while that's happening. This way you're not just sitting around watching glue dry. Once I finally had the ejection seat the way I wanted it, or I should say the way it's supposed to go, I started in on the pilot. Getting the pilot's arm and the yoke lined up and looking like it belonged there was pretty fiddly, but once I got it, it looked good in the right place, and I had hopes that the rest of the kit would go more smoothly than it had so far. One thing I had noticed about the parts in this kit is some of the small parts, the mold lines are pretty pronounced, and trying to get rid of them will look like you would be removing part of the structure in some cases. I used a combination of my hobby knife and some 600 grit sandpaper to get the worst of it, and then smooth that over with some 1000 grit if it needed it. That said, I still didn't do a perfect job cleaning it up because I was worried about removing more plastic than belonged there, so I may have erred on the side of caution there a little too much in some places. Once I finally had the pilot glued down, it seemed like a crucial point in the project, in which I'm sure there's going to be many more, but it's like you're committed now, and we've got to finish this. One more little tool tip. I had this little cheap pair of tweezers I was trying to use on the arm, and they were horribly misaligned, and the tips were bent, and they were spearing the part, and it wasn't releasing when it's supposed to. So one way to fix that is to just grab a fine two-sided file and polish the inside surfaces until they are smooth and line up and touch evenly. Once I had the cockpit finished, it was looking pretty good, and I'm excited to get started on the rest of the build. So I took a pause and primed everything I had so far, including the cockpit, so that when the time came to glue the fuselage together, it was done and ready to go. I think that's a good place to stop for now. In the next video, wings. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for getting to the end of the video. I appreciate you sticking around. If you like what you're seeing, I'd really appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button. If you're interested, the playlist is here, and the subscribe button's just right there. Have a great day.